All right. It's a little early here on a Monday. When the Patriots are going back to the AFC Championship game, we're not going to waste any time here in the Pats Interference Podcast. It has nothing to do with the imminent kickoff of the national championship game of football, and nothing to do with Mike Giardi and I wanted to crack into a beer on a Monday. But if it did, could you blame us? No, you couldn't, because this is the Pats Interference Podcast, maybe our 20th Monday doing this with the live show as part of the quirky, quick-witted, and Quakerly, not really CLNS Media Network. Who would be the most Quakerly, the most Quakerist among us?
Gosh.
Putting you on the spot, I know. A little religion in there, not how you wanted to start your playoff victory Monday here.
I got nothing. I'm trying. Catholic?
Catholic? Nah. Is it Barth? Just by default?
Oh, it could be Barth. Among us? It could be Barth. It could be Barth.
Parents are Quakers. He's kind of like leaning out, but he's still got a little bit in.
It could be Hines too, but he rarely speaks except on the podcast, so I can't give you a ton of information there.
Tough one. You can't give me a ton of information about yesterday's win. 28-16. Again, Patriots are going back to the AFC Championship game because they beat the Texans in the divisional round game in one of the most violent games I've seen in a long time. And that got lost in the snow. It got lost in the Kayshon Boutte touchdown, which I have seen replayed a billion times today on Twitter. And I'm not complaining about, because I will watch it a billion times more when we're done. And the fact that, again, the Patriots are going back to a place, specifically Denver, where they played this game twice before in recent history, in a game in the AFC title game, which has all felt very familiar. And frankly, as I watch this, before we get to the nitty-gritty dad pod, let me have it, etc., I need you to talk me down, because I found myself in a very poetic, soft, frankly, place about just the history and the echoes and times and this happened and this. So you can either ground me or indulge me here about what this meant and how familiar it felt as far as, again, everything that happened yesterday and is now going to happen on Sunday, being one step from the Super Bowl.
You know, as soon as I saw you tweet out the link to your story from last night, your column, I was like, oh, somebody's got the warm and fuzzies. And look, I have been there this season myself. You know, we've had these conversations. I mean, famously, just a few shows ago, you were ripping me for comparing the way Drake Maye played to the way Tom Brady did in the greatest Super Bowl that I ever saw, Patriots and Seahawks, which, oh, by the way, we could end up with a rematch. Just, you know, I mean, either way, if you get there, you're going to have one. I get where you're coming from. There are some similarities and some parallels to be drawn, but I would just say, to me, this team has sort of carved out its own identity as the years gone on. And while particularly sort of the defensive influence on the season in the last month or so really does kind of take me back to 2001 and the belief that you ended up having in that team as it went on, I just think that it's just such a different team. It's, you know, I know the head coach has some, obviously he was on that team in 2001 and was part of the building of the dynasty, but the quarterback is so remarkably different from a skill level in some of the things that he does on the football field and some of the personalities involved that I get it. I'm not saying you're wrong or crazy. I don't know. This team has a unique characteristic to me that I'm still trying to put my finger on.
So you're grounding me. You're very, very casually, very gently bringing me back down to earth.
Yeah, because I don't think you're crazy. And I've been at that point where I've said, like, wow, there's a lot of similarities between 2001 to me. And then you're
not crazy is what they say when you're in a wheelchair going in to be kind of swaddled there for a little bit at certain hospitals. I mean, come on, you could. This is not the time for being nice. Serious. This is the time for truth. Like,
I think I am being truthful. I don't think it's nuts. I just, for me, and maybe it's because I've heard it for so long that every year takes on its life of its own. And you know, you're not defending the championship when you win it. It's a new team, and the slate is wiped clean, and everybody has to do the work to build it back up again. That this team has built themselves up into something that they deserve credit for, that the coaching staff deserves credit for, the belief that they had that maybe a lot of other people didn't have at various points during the season through all this stuff. I mean, some people, I came to it midway through the year, right? Other people came to it even later, waited until Baltimore, you know, and winning in late December to sort of come along. But I don't know, just I feel like it's almost disrespectful is not the right word, because anytime you be compared to a champion, that's not disrespectful. But like, they're doing this their own way, even if, yes, there are some common threads that you can pull at.
So here are those threads before we go on, because I
Yes.
want to get to a big
Tell
talk
the
radio
people.
question and then get into the nitty gritty of the film before we get to Denver, which I think there are some surprises in store for people who want to hear us talk about Patriots Broncos on Sunday. But let's start with this. It doesn't help, as someone who's getting older and now thinking about the past and reflecting, that it's snowing the entire drive-in and then it snows the entire game. There's nothing that defines big games in Foxborough quite like bad weather. This goes to Brady's return with the rain. It goes to Belichick's farewell, where he's just buried in snow. And then by the Jets in that last loss, all the Colts games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They had 4 picks of a young quarterback they thoroughly undressed and embarrassed. Like, the brains of the operation were Belichick. The heartbeat was Brady. The backbone was always defense. Defense is what's driving this now. This is not the Drake Maye and Friends show anymore. This is the Patriots defense paving the way, buying Drake time, saying, we got you. We're even going to score for you, as Marcus Jones goes back into the end zone somehow more than most, I think, of their offensive players. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this complete flip of their formula of, we're going to follow Drake Maye, the precocious MVP candidate, all the way back to the playoffs where no one expected us. We're going to go back to the place that no one, not even us, thought we would land in the AFC Championship game. And leading us there is a clever, multiple, disguising, blitzing defense where you don't know who's coming from where, except it's a collection of veterans that play well together, are selfless, and are really led by a secondary that finally showed up with something like 10 pass breakups. That all echoing, mind you, 21 years to the day that they did that to Peyton Manning. Very different quarterback, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I said multiple times, slandering CJ Stroud, having pop rocks for Brandon yesterday on social media, okay? That's not Peyton Manning. They picked off Peyton Manning 4 times in a game they were actually favored by 3.5, just as they were yesterday, in snowy conditions to go to the Super Bowl. They're not there yet. These are not those Patriots. The Texans, obviously, underscore, all caps, not those Colts. But those echoes to me are interesting for a team that people didn't believe in, came together with a lot of new faces, and has a new identity that still echoes with the defense. That's all. That's as sappy as I'm going to get until they win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl, and then we're not doing this again.
I'll give you just so I was on the field back in the day, especially when you're on TV. They used to let us on the field like 2 minutes before the end of the game. And those rules have changed. And it used to be a thing, even when I was at NFL Network and you're a rights holder, that sometimes security would be like, no, you can't go out there. And it's like, no, we actually can. Your boss is the owner. He wants us there. But back in the day, they used to let us go on the field. And so those last 2 minutes, you get a real sense for the energy. And there were a lot of close games in that tenure with the Colts and things of that nature. The Colts game in the snow that you are particularly referencing with the multiple interceptions was the loudest I've ever heard Foxborough, before or after. It was one of those things where, to quote Al Michaels, sound had feel. It hit you in the chest, and That's it's great. Like it gave you goosebumps. And this is like, we say it, the job is the job, right? Win, lose, I got to cover it one way or the other. And so, but you're just hearing this crowd, this deafening roar, and it's hitting you in the chest. And it is making, right now, the hair on the back of my neck is starting to stand up again, because that's going to be stuck with me for as long as my brain still works. Like, that was just a moment. And I think we've had some moments here in the last month in particular at Gillette Stadium where it's felt like it did in 2001, when it was, we weren't quite expecting this, and now it's here, and we have embraced you with all of our heart and soul, body, mind, the whole thing in New England. And we are crusty people. We are angry. We are whatever, sarcastic, the whole thing. But there's something about, I know, not me, never me. But there's something about this group, Andrew, in particular, where I feel like they've been embraced more than any Patriot team in recent memory. And maybe it's because of the previous 2 years. Maybe it's the 2 4-13s, and you never expected it to turn on a dime like this. And you've got this aw shucks quarterback, and you got this guy with a tie to the past who's hard nosed, but sort of just tells you the truth. And I think they've just embraced it, and it's obviously it's working. They're winning a lot of football games, a lot more than we thought.
It's definitely the most well-embraced Patriots team nationally, I think, since probably 2001, which is not a particularly high bar for reasons we're not going to get into. But yeah, between Drake and Vrabel, and look, the starting point in all of this is Vrabel coming back. If this were Ben Johnson's team, what you're saying about this is its own team, its own identity, would hit a lot harder because he would lead a different culture and a different team than Mike Vrabel has. But that echo starts with him. And I think just for people who are enjoying this of a certain age, probably my age and older, so you're talking like early 30s and on, you have to notice this on the way because the whole season was unexpected. And that made the beauty of the early part of the dynasty, not the second half, what it was in the context of this developing as quickly as it did, in addition to just now the ferocious, overwhelming defense, which has been the missing piece all along, now arriving in the biggest spots in the snow in Foxborough in a way that when you rewatch the NFL Films version of this game, just like when you watch that Colts game, again, I think people would be surprised to learn the Patriots were favored by 3.5 in that AFC Championship game against Peyton Manning. That Texans defense is going to be built up as like the direct descendants of the 85 Bears when you rewatch that. And then you have the slow-mo of Kayshon Boutte, and that's how it will be remembered. Like we remember the Colts as this unstoppable force and offensive machine that the Patriots had no chance against. None of it's true, but in the moment kind of gives a similar feel. Anyway, they're going to the AFC Championship game. It's a very fun team. You and I talked last week of like, was this defensive performance even possible? Yes, it was, and they could go up a level. Now time for my big talk radio question. Are they the best team in the NFL right now?
Most balanced?
Not what I asked. Not what I asked.
So no. Seattle and LA were the teams all year, and I know LA had a little dip at the end, but if you still go by, if you're a big nerd number guy, you go by the DVOA, which is really, I know, that those are the two best teams in football, and they have been pretty much the majority of the year, and by a long shot. This Patriot team, though, that we've seen now with this defense elevating like this and causing problems, to me, what it's done is now when you look at the four teams left, and you say, and if you want to include special teams in this, and I always say do that on your own time, but if you want to include it, where you put those together and you can say they're the most complete team in terms of especially with the way the defense has come up now, where actually they're probably playing better than the offense, right, Andrew? Where we're now at the point where it's like there is the gap between the units is not what it is. You look at Seattle, their defense is awesome. Like as historically was better than thus far this year, the Houston Texans, who I think I still came away with a crap ton of respect for. That's the fastest defense I've seen in person in a long time. But the gap between their defense and their offense was Sam Darnold, and now Zach Charbonnet, a nice little piece in the backfield, torn ACL. He's done for the rest of the year. You look at the Rams, whose defense has started to fall off really for the last 6 to 8 weeks, has not been a very good defense. Still, quote unquote, top 10, but they were top 5, and now they've fallen off. So there's a gap there between those guys. And obviously Denver, which their offense wasn't awesome to begin with, and now they don't have their starting quarterback, and we get to see Jared Stidham throw a football in anger for the first time in 2 years, 3 years. What's the number? It's been a minute.
You could tell me ever. I really have no memory of Jared Stidham throwing passes here, except for in mop-up duty, which of course it covered his entire career here. Don't get me wrong, but when there's a pandemic thrown in the middle of that, you tend to lose some games from the memory bank. I agree with you, and I think it's an interesting conversation nonetheless, because what it does is contextualize this Final Four that we have with them, Denver, Seattle, and the Rams. I think you have to just take Denver out of it because of the Stidham factor in Bo Nix. And even if you had Bo Nix there, I'm not sure the Patriots aren't favored by like 1.5 going into Sunday. Either way, you're taking them off the table. The way the Rams have played lately, barely surviving in Chicago, okay, it happens. The Bears just like lock you into some game from hell that's going to the fourth quarter every single week, whatever. The week before that, they barely survived at Carolina. They did. I know they scored a lot of points at Arizona. Who cares? Before that, they lose in a way that has Sean McVay going, I am the king of resting my guys. I'm going to set down my crown for this finale. And we were going pedal to the metal against the pathetic Cardinals because we have to get this right. I just don't trust them in a way that I did, frankly, for most of the season. So to me, it's them in Seattle. Seattle's got the resume. They've got the best unit between all for offense, defense of both teams. The Sam Darnold question just is what it is. There's like no getting around it until that dude has a championship. And even then, you might be like, Brad Johnson won one. Trent Dilfer won one, I do think it's Seattle, though, because when you go to their resume, they lost 3 one-score games, the 49ers in their opener, the Rams on the road, and I think, what was it, Tampa at home?
Yes.
There's a weird game. And that's it. So, this is a well-coached, probably more talented team than the Patriots. If and when they get to the Super Bowl, Seattle will be favored. I don't think it'll be by a lot. But the Patriots have pushed themselves into the conversation because of their defense, which, of course, leads us in the opposite direction. You ready to talk about Drake Maye? Oh, you know what? No, let's do this. We're very happy about the offense. We're very happy about the defense.
You see, you're used to saying the offense.
I know.
It was 3 months of that, 4 months.
Are you happier about the defense, or are you a little bit more worried about the offense, given some of the numbers that we're going to get to in a second?
I have not been particularly overwhelmed by how the Patriots have played offensively in the last 2 weeks. It has been a slog. They've become, as I wrote today, more of a feast or famine offense than we've seen at any point during the course of the year. Once they turned the page against Pittsburgh, there it is, mark it down, 16-26 in the program. My gratuitous Pittsburgh reference. Once they turned the page, they have been consistently one of the 3 or 4 best offenses in football. You can look at all the numbers and crunch it up. We saw it with our own eyes, even with a run game that was boom or bust. Much like now the whole team offensively has become sort of a feast or famine. And the numbers yesterday, do you want me to rip off the numbers that I put in the story, or do you want to save that for your?
Well, let me just give you a couple, because we do these numbers every single week because they decide every single game ever played. Turnovers, the Patriots had 3. And let me say in the front end, I know the Texans numbers here, often worse, but we're talking about the Patriots offense, which had 16 points against the Chargers, a very good defense. The Texans, I've already called maybe the best defense in football. I get the context, but here are the numbers. 3 turnovers yesterday. A success rate of 33%. Mm-hmm. That's not scoring points. That's just, can you just stay on schedule and move the chains? They did that 1 out of every 3 times. 1 trip into the red zone, and a pressure rate of 25. That wasn't so bad, but again, resulted in 5 sacks. So that's 10 in 2 games. What do you have?
So the big numbers, 3rd lowest offensive EPA per play by a winning team in the entire season. I'll repeat that again. 3rd lowest offensive EPA by a winning team this entire season. Week 18, Raiders over the Chiefs. And I believe it was week 9, the Jets over the Browns. So what are we talking about there? We're talking about 3 of the worst teams in football and a Kansas City team that was without Patrick Mahomes and basically said, nobody's playing. Anybody who has anything, a hangnail, you sit over here. Over the last decade of playoff football, Pat's performance against the Texans was the 3rd lowest in a victory, minus 1.01 EPA per drive. Again, over the last decade of playoff football, the 3rd worst performance by a winning team. 15 drives on Sunday. Didn't record a first down on 9 of those drives. You know what they gained on those 9 drives when their average field position, by the way, was the 36-yard line. Not the 12, not the 18, the 36 on those 9 drives. 26 plays, 5 yards.
Eek. So let me say again, because I can hear the typing on the other side of you, on the other end of the interwebs. They won. They're going to the AFC Championship game. Yeah. We opened with 14 minutes on why this hits me in the feels about watching the Patriots in the early 2000s. And part of that was winning uglier in a way than I frankly remember when I go revisit these Colts games and how close they were in the turnovers, or the Titans games, or all those, the Steelers, who obviously they saw multiple times. They won. That's what's most important. That's what matters. When you have, though, the offense tested in a way that, frankly, it was not the entire year, where the best defense that Drake Maye and friends saw was the Browns in week 8 or 9, and they overcame them for 32 points. Big thumbs up. This is the first top 10 defense the Chargers were that they've seen since, and another one, a top 5, top 2, top whatever defense in the Texans. That tells you more about who you are and what you're going to see, A, in Denver, and then maybe B, in the Super Bowl. if you see Seattle. So this is important data. This is telling information, good tape. And to me, I still feel better about the defense, not because, again, it hits me in the feels about this, but because that was something I didn't know was on the table or couldn't really explain until I saw it. I believed enough in the talent. It just hadn't come together in a way that I said, this is how they win. They can be more multiple than they've been. Their best players are back playing at their peak. When you and I are being like, Christian Barmore has 2 hits since Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
What this is for the offense is not something that's going to come and go. They very well might play like this again, where it's boomer bust, as you've been putting in. I think that's the exact right way to put it. What this is, though, is it's stressing their weak points in a way that have not been stressed, specifically their offensive line and against the Chargers with their man coverage. Yep. So this is not a Scooby-Doo reveal of an actual crappy or above average offense. That's not what we're saying.
Right.
What I'm saying is they have to confront problems that Drake Maye and Josh McDaniels have been able to paper over or pad or protect against with their respective play calling and playing. Can't do that as well against the Texans. We're going to line up and play football and tell you what they're in and still kick your ass. And that's mostly what they did, save for those boomer bust high variance plays that may hit and are why they won the game. So that's all. Like, the things we knew in August are now surfacing in a way they didn't in September, October, November, December, but we're always there lurking underneath. This is the playoff crucible. Everyone gets their weak points tested and poked at. That's what's happening here.
Well, and this is a great clapback for the people who have not been able to withstand the easy schedule, which historically it was one of the easiest schedules ever. There's a million numbers that back that up. I don't want to hear what about this team or that team. Doesn't matter. Yours was the easiest. However, in the postseason, your offense has to go through the Chargers, as you said, whatever they are, top 10, top 8, whatever it is. The Texans, first or second by pretty much every metric. Now they get Denver, another, at one point they were the number 1 defense in football. Again, falling off a little bit, but still a top 10 defense. And then whoever you get in the Super Bowl, would you be able to get there? You're either facing the number 1 defense in Seattle, and as I said, even though they haven't been the same team, statistically, what is a top 10 defense in the Rams? So if all said and done, you manage to go through this and win a Super Bowl, you can tell people, well, first of all, you got a Super Bowl, so don't shove an asterisk right up your hindquarters because
nothing else matters. You win, and Brian Windhorst says this about
Lombardi.
The
but then you can also say, oh, by the way, our second-year quarterback with a rookie left side of the offensive line and all these little pieces that they just kind of put together. You're a stopgap for a year. You might be here for 2. We're not sure how we feel about this running back or this receiver. You can say you went through 4 of the best defenses in football by any metric you want to measure. And so that'll just be Lombardi here, but then there'll be that right there where the offense can say, they gave us our best, and maybe we weren't perfect, but we made enough plays to win the football games when it mattered.
Yeah, they did. The schedule to me always pertained more to the defense. Like, I knew Drake Maye was good because the tape was good. The defensive tape, not always we dissected it. I don't want to talk about the schedule. I think it's the most boring, bad faith argument at this point. The ink is dry on it. We all know what it was. It doesn't matter now. They're in the playoffs. That's what we're talking about. Let me give you those 5 final stats, critical areas that define this game, and then let's get to Drake, because this tape was more boring than I expected it to be. And I don't know what to make of that aside from what I'm going to have for you in a second. Turnovers. These are the 5 critical areas. Patriots had 3. The Texans had 5. Big box check for the Patriots. Explosive play rate. 6.3% for the Patriots. That is lower than their season average. You know what's lower than that? 2.8% for Houston.
Yeah. Holy
shit, is that a small number? And there were 2 plays where they got explosives. Number 1 was a check down, 42-yarder is their second drive. They're in quarters. CJ Stroud just has all day, and Marcus Jones is in, I think he was in a hook zone. It just kind of comes up to rush him and contain him, and boop, goes over the head, 42 yards.
Yep.
Yeah, the other one was the completion of Christian Gonzalez. That's it. The Patriots successfully forced the Texans to drive down the field again and again and again. Couldn't do it. Success rate, to that point, 33% for both teams. Red zone efficiency, 1 of 1 for the Pats. Texans were 1 of 4. Sneaky number that kind of catches up on you. Part of that is short fields, whatever. Last one, defensive pressure rate. Patriots, 34%. Thumbs up. Again, there's a big split there when it was about 50% pressure rate when they blitzed and less than half that when they didn't. But the blitzing is working. It's just is what it is. Texans was only 24%. And this leads me into the context for Drake Maye, who I'll let you take it from here. I said it's boring. The Texans played boring schematically. The Patriots played boring schematically. It was our good on your good, and Drake Maye was not very good until he had to be.
Right. So, I mean, you just mentioned with 4 explosive plays, I think was the total. But what I will say, 3 of those were touchdowns, and they were perfectly placed footballs. And we had the 0 blitz for the first touchdown of Pop Douglas, right, where Kalen Bullock plays it well, gets his hand on the ball, but that ball was so spot on that there wasn't enough room for that deflection to make a difference. And obviously, there's no one in the middle of the field when you go cover 0. He's to the house. The ball that he threw on the slant flats concept to Stephon Diggs for the touchdown, which they went to multiple times in that drive, including the long one to Booty. I mean, it's a great catch. I don't want to take that away from it. Bullock came over the top. He had Reed covering him man to man. Bullock came over the top to try to take his head off, and it's a great hands catch, but it was also a perfect throw. Just an absolute seed, a piss missile, whatever you want to call it. It was that. And then, of course, the one to Booty, the 989 concept, everybody's going vertical. It's the same thing that he hit him on for his first ever touchdown pass down the sidelines against the same cornerback in Stingley from last year. And perfect throw. And an unbelievable catch, a one-handed catch by Booty. But, I think when we talked about this game and why I thought that the Patriots are going to win was I didn't think it would be easy. I thought their defense would do some things to you, and they did just by the turnovers and just their sheer will of talent, their sheer will and their overwhelming talent. But I thought that Drake would make enough plays. And that's where I'm kind of at with Drake. He made enough plays against the Chargers to help win the football game. He made enough plays in this one to help win the football game and overcome, once again, some of his own errors that have now encompassed a couple games here in the postseason.
Kind of reminds me of a young quarterback who used to do just enough around his great defense and won a lot of playoff games. Maybe just a little bit.
I'm trying to think of what I can use for a soundtrack to play under this when you're doing this.
You're just lucky I didn't use the line "flakes of nostalgia falling from the sky" because I really considered it yesterday in the column. And I said, I might kick myself in the nuts tomorrow if I put this in there. I might not, but I don't want to run that risk.
So, as the game got on, and I was pretty comfortable, even though, it was still a close game, that they're going to win. I'm dabbling. Some things are coming in my head, and I'm watching this game, and I'm like, snow globe. And I started to work around snow globe a little bit. And then I was like, no snow globe. Don't do it. Erase. You know what? Maybe just cut and paste that and put it over here. Who knows?
But I didn't column for me. There's one for everybody else, just like your notebooks that talk to each other back and forth. And then there's one for me. So you're absolutely right. And this is the way that we've been talking about the run game forever, right?
Yeah.
This is not going to be a down-to-down successful run game. They just need, when they swing for the fences, to connect often enough. See Adam Dunn, see Jack Cust, pick your whatever, Willie Mo Pena in a good year. That's what it needs to look like. That was Drake Maye, who, again, the raw numbers, if you don't want to believe me, 16-27, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns, biggest number I'm about to say. The pick, who cares, is Hail Mary. 5 sacks, I do care about that, and only 10 rushing yards. His accurate percentage was 65.4%. That was a season low, accurate throw percentage. And there were a couple missed layups at the feet of Henderson in the right flat, and then Booty on a curl to the left. Both were first half. Okay, it's a snow, but they were open. And you need to hit your layups against a team that's pressing you, which is basically what the Texans did. Hit a lot of go balls that were just a little off. Mm-hmm. And initially watching this, which again was part of the simplicity that I talked about. Josh McDaniels was not dialing this up, was not in his bag on Sunday. We'll get to what he did, and I think most of it was smart. But this, as you said, slant flat. There were some double slants in there. You're having some max protect, simple concepts, just play and go. I liked that he continued to throw deep because that is exactly where the dam was going to break for Houston's defense all along. And he didn't know if it was going to be Kyle Williams early in the first half where he misses one of those go balls. He throws another in that direction at Lassiter, who they just went after and only gave it one catch. It ended up being the one to Booty in the fourth quarter that we're all going to remember, partly because of that timing. But there's a world in which one of those go balls against a defense that gets aggressive on third down, playing single high and a lot of man coverage, where they hit it early, and they kind of take control of this game. But Drake didn't know when that was going to be. The only thing he would have known is if he had stopped shooting, to continue with the basketball analogies, he wouldn't have made any shots. And so to do that, he had to keep overcoming what were some inaccuracies downfield. So like that number, I don't like 65.4%. That's got to go up. Okay. But I understand why, given the difficulty of the throw and the thinking behind it of like, we just have to keep going. And he was 1 of 6 for 32 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Who cares about the pick on deep throws? And that one was much more important than the 5 that he missed.
Yeah. And I like, so it's funny, the contrast. And obviously we saw CJ Stroud play a horrific game. What were you calling it? Pop rocks?
Pop rocks for his brain. He gave pop rocks for brains and was sipping soda on the sideline.
I said at one point, and because Patriot fans are fully back online on social media in terms of their defense mechanism, but I was like, I'm sure I've seen a worse played quarterback game than the one I'm currently watching right now, but this one's up there. And I was talking about Stroud. Had nothing to do with Drake Maye. This was me continuing watching CJ Stroud just make one god-awful throw or one god-awful decision after another. So as I was doing my charting for this game, because it was so obvious, I'm like, I'm going to just put BT next to all the throws that he makes that are bad throws. And I'm talking about like, I'm not even getting into the Drake Maye minutia of the Raiders game in week 1 when I was talking about the different decisions and I had him for 14 decisions I didn't like or throws I didn't like, where I'm talking about just, hey, put it on the right hip, not the left hip, like different things like that. This is not close. These are, you got Cade Stover's knee exploded because you threw a ball so badly at him. You missed a layup throw on the first third down of the game. Like just a simple, like, let's just, hey, or first play of the game, I should say. It wasn't even the first down, the play action boot. I had Stroud for 15 bad throws, people.
BTs.
15. That's an absurd number. 47 attempts, 15 bad throws, 4 of them get picked off. Drake, for all of his quote-unquote struggles, he had 2 bad throws. And I almost put a third down there. It was the third down conversion to Kayshon Boutte, where he ran the quick little out. And it looked like it nearly got picked in the game. It was the fourth quarter. But when I went back and watched it, I kind of think he did it to not lead Boutte into a defender. So you kind of squeezed it between 2 guys, and the safer throw was to put it here on the back hip as he came out of his break versus put him here, and then who knows if that guy delivers the hammer on him. So, I mean, if you want to put that down as a bad throw, 3 bad throws out of how many dropbacks, like versus what you saw on the other side. So the turnovers were a problem. The fumbles, he's got to do a better job with that. The sacks, as you mentioned, but he didn't put the ball when he was throwing it, at least, into harm's way.
So the really egregious play was that second drive where he doesn't step up into the pocket. This transference that we've heard from Ashton Grant, their quarterback's coach, of, okay, the 3-point plan for his development. What was it? Footwork, transference up into the pocket, leadership, check, all the way throughout the season. Did not check that there. And you could see the importance, by the way, of sending the edge rushers kind of around. They run the loop, right? That's where they're supposed to meet. If you're a quarterback, his job is to step up. He didn't, whatever. It really is just holding on to the ball. And 2 of the strip sacks that he had, I mean, the ones that Will Campbell gave up, because the other one was diving forward on a scramble, and that's on him, even though it was a nice punch out. Just happened like this. I mean, Will Anderson's get off in one of those was less than a half second. Like, I just don't know what you're supposed to do with that.
You have to put Campbell down for a negative because he got beat and it was a strip sack. And but 3-step drop, you're getting rid of the ball. It's like he didn't pitter patter. The ball was coming out and Will Anderson was on top of him so fast. It's just a great player making a great play.
So I don't know. I think the word is probably pedestrian, which again includes the context of facing a great defense, but with a straightforward game plan and understanding some of these mistakes, one of which led to a touchdown, are just stuff that you can't repeat again. Though I guess he had some of these against the Chargers, but I don't know. I'm struck by feeling like I'm being forgiving, but also going, okay, well, what do I really want to hammer him on aside from those 2 missed throws in the first sack, which was really his fault and a bad play. Diving forward, okay, that's another one. It's kind of it.
Well, I mean, so you can have the argument the game happened. This is what happened. CJ Stroud was terrible. If CJ Stroud is a competent quarterback in this football game, those turnovers loom large. They probably cash in on some of that stuff. Like, I'm literally talking about just give me average quarterback play, which CJ Stroud did not give them. That was not only below average, I think it was well below average. And I would have, quite frankly, I would have gone to Davis Mills. I get the arguments for not doing it, but by God, I watched.
So you're just saying if the Texans were able to exploit Maye's mistakes at just a replacement level, a normal standard backup quarterback, he's getting crushed a lot more than we're discussing now because his play is independent of that.
Yeah,
but how you view it would change.
Yeah, the turnovers were pretty, could have been pretty backbreaking, and they turned out not to be because CJ Stroud was on the other side and he was incompetent. I thought their whole operation, quite frankly, from an offensive standpoint, wasn't all that great last night. And this is to take nothing away from the Patriots defense, who ended up getting so far into his head that, like I said, I would have gone to Davis Mills and said, you can watch the rest of this game, but I understand it's the second overall pick in the draft from just a few years ago. So,
okay. Since we keep talking CJ Stroud, let's skip over the Patriots offense for now and let's just do their defense. Because again, that was the story to me. That was the major echo in time of how they're winning and how they're continuing to go on the playoffs. Setting CJ Stroud aside for a second, knowing he might be a harm to himself over there, but we're just going to sit there and just wait.
Yeah.
I loved, like would do long distance with this game plan from Zach Core happily for like a full year. It was awesome tape to watch. And I get that they gave up 10 points at halftime. And I'll tell you, the first drive was a result of, again, that explosive play they gave up on a check down, coverage bust, whatever, extended play, didn't get home with 4. Then the touchdown happens, and it's a man blitz. Just like Drake Maye continuing to throw deep against Houston, knowing if I do this often enough, the dam is going to break. That was the attitude that Zach Core had with his pressure calls, which were not all-out blitzes all the time, by the way. This was a dial that he spun, which I don't know when that phrase is going to go out, but we all know what I mean by that. Just like a broken record. No one's using records anymore. No one younger than me knows.
Vinyl did make a little bit of a comeback.
That's actually true. Zach Core was spinning a dial that just finally slowed down like 10 seconds ago. Man blitzes, zone blitzes, simulated pressures with 4-man rushers, creepers, which are not simulated pressures in that they show blitz before the snap and then spin to something else. These are just, we're rushing for the combination you don't expect at all. Zone match coverage with their quarter stuff, regular man-to-man, and traditional spot drop zone. That was all in the first half. On separate snaps, they rushed 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Linebackers blitz, corners blitz, safeties blitz. They had an early tendency on first down to go 5-man front, which against an offensive line just forces single blocks. They played man coverage behind it, which you don't see a whole lot. To me, that was a way to get a control on Houston's bootleg play action game, which I said somewhere last week. Them running the ball is just a vehicle to get to their play action game. Like that's what they want to do. They know they stink at the run, but they have to do it to kind of play along. They got a handle on both immediately because the Texans offensive line is hurt and it stinks. But the way that they had structurally set up got them into a lot of second and longs where then it was quarters and then third down was just party time. I love this. Here are the last numbers, and these are for the whole game. Stroud against the blitz was 6 of 18 for 67 yards. The touchdowns, Marcus Jones made up for it. 2 picks. When he was under pressure, and this was the whole idea. Again, the dam breaks. Didn't take a whole lot. It took like a tap on the glass, like you're not supposed to do in an aquarium, and then the whole water just flew at you. 2 of 16 for 18 yards with an interception and 3 sacks when under pressure. I know he was atrocious, but there's getting lucky, which they did. And then there's making your own luck, which is what they did by continuing to harass him with as many different calls as I've seen from them all season. It was awesome.
Well, early in the game when they were in, they were in the game the whole time, but you know what I mean? When it was 10-7, he was beating man a little bit. He had beat pressure a couple times. Didn't look great, but he had and you're like, oh, if he can live on that sort of balanced world, this is going to be a little bit harder than I thought. And then I think the constant flow, and as you said, the way they challenged his brain with where's it coming from? For me, and I say this all the time, and It's one of the reasons too I felt a slight comfort in May making some plays, because Houston doesn't disguise. This is what we are, and we're just so freaking better, so much better than you. Our guys are better than yours. We're just going to beat you that way. Okay, well, I want you to think. I want you to, like, if I can slow you down that one extra split second, whatever it is, like, that's what I want to do. And I felt like Stroud went into it already feeling a little nervous about what they might do to him, having seen what they did to Justin Herbert the week before. And I think this was far more diabolical than what that was against the Chargers. And I think he came unraveled fairly quickly in this game. And when he unraveled, I know he had a couple moments in the second half, but by and large, he didn't get it back. His feet were constantly moving. Just like I was saying, the joke about the duck in the water on the top of the water, everything looks calm, doesn't look anything, and underneath the duck's going like this. Well, I'm like, CJ Stroud, you can see it with this whole body. The feet are moving, his head, shoulders, like he was just, where's it coming from? I don't know. I can't see it. And then eventually I'm either going to throw it to you, or I'm going to, take a sack, or I'm going to do 15 horrific throws over the course of the game.
Okay. Part of that, as we all know, was Patriots defense, which I know you know, but I just want to recenter it, because like he was horrendous. I just don't have much more to add to, like, it was unbelievably bad decision making, horrible inaccuracy, and a guy that, if you're them, based on maybe that game alone, though we understand what happened at Pittsburgh early in that game, you go, I don't know if you can give you an extension. Like, that's how bad it was. A multi-million-dollar decision, future of the franchise, direction of the franchise. We have to fix you before we even talk about the financials. The Patriots. This is a game that I have wanted to see for a while, not just in terms of the schematic diversity, though that was great. It was the force with which, I cannot pronounce anything today. Force with which they played in their secondary. And what I mean by that is not just the 4 interceptions, but all of the pass breakups everywhere. This was in zone, it was in match, it was in man. And you saw it with Craig Woodson had his first pick. Carlton Davis, first pick, was an awesome rep of quarters on the outside, carries the post initially, then passes it off, goes back to the sideline, is there for the replacement route, and obviously makes a spectacular grab. It wasn't just, we're going to be here, and if you catch it, we'll tackle you then, which had been happening a lot. This was, we're coming to crash down and squeeze routes. You mentioned CJ started to find like a little bit of a rhythm, like early second half, good things happened. What really happened there is they ran the ball. But the entire game, aside from that one drive to start the second half, they did not run the ball. And the Patriots didn't even have to bulk up in a way that was like, we're going to play goal line like they have to start certain games, because they just know they're overpowered from the get-go. Mm-hmm. They played nickel sometimes against the 6 offensive lineman looks. It's a shout out to Milt Williams, Christian Barmore, Kyrus Tonga. And let's get to the guy you and I really want to talk about, Christian Ellis, who criticizing his missed tackles and his play diagnosis was fair then, but feels like freaking forever ago, the way that he was so patient, waiting and watching Woody Marks try to pick a hole, and then like trapping him in a way that you would a mouse in the corner of your house. Just like met it immediately and had him down there. I love what I saw from him. He still flew around. It wasn't too patient. But the linebacker play, even when Spillane left for a little bit, just was there from start to finish. And it felt like Christian Ellis was finally maximized in all the talent that made them want to match the Raiders offer going back to the offseason, because that's a player that they saw.
Yeah. The intelligence with which he's now playing and the comfort that he has in the defense, combined with his overall athleticism and speed, and now the violence that we've seen, which you go back to the Giants game, that's when it really popped for everybody, because of obviously some of the hits he laid on Jackson Dart and Gunnar Olszewski on the kick return. But it had started to come before that. You just, as a play here, it's Christian Ellis. I'm not, like whatever. He has become really an integral part of that defense. Whether it was last week when he was spying Herbert at times, this week what he was doing, like had a pass breakup that almost led to an interception down in the red area. Like, I just think he's playing great football, and it's a credit to him for kind of overcoming as we talked about, the slow start and the inconsistencies, and a credit to the coaching staff for sticking with him and believing in this. They had a vision for the player, and the player has made that vision look like it was X-ray vision. They got it down. He's playing great football. I want to get you another one too, and I know you sort of have a structure here, but Anthony Jennings. Keon White was traded, and it was the fit and all these different things, but there was a certain lackadaisical nature to Keon White and almost an acceptance of this, this isn't for me. They don't like me, or I don't like them, or the combination of the both. And they decided to move on from him. And there were points when he was gone where you would have been like, well, it would have been nice to have that body. I don't know if he, would have been any better than what we had seen, but there was a stretch there where they were down a lot of people. Anthony Jennings had just shut his mouth. He's been on the trade block since as you reported, that was back in the offseason, the summer, to the deadline. They couldn't move him, either they just couldn't move him. And you've talked about this, and we've had this discussion about he's sort of a niche player in terms of he's a run defender. And that's just not the way the game is not played that way anymore. Anthony Jennings has gotten a lot of run because of Harold Landry's injuries, and they managed Landry's injuries at the end of the year by sitting him out. And now they're managing him because, quite frankly, it's just the knee is not the same. He got 11 snaps yesterday, which for someone who didn't come off the field for the first 3 months of the season tells you all you need to know about the status of his body at this point. But Anthony Jennings is playing really good football, and he is giving them something in the pass rush. And he's not winning one-on-one stuff. Some of this is game stuff and things like that, but he's in the right place. He's making good plays. I talked to him briefly yesterday, and it wasn't even a Q&A. I just said to him, I don't know. He probably was like, who's this guy? And I don't care. But I appreciated his approach all season. Just put your head down and keep working and show up every day. And no one said a bad word about him. No one was like, oh, he's a malcontent. Nope. He's worked. He's played. He was inconsistent when he did get his snaps. But now that he's gotten a heavier volume at the end of the season, you can see a more confident football player. And I think he played really well again last night. So he said to me, by the way, when I told him, I was just like, I really appreciate your approach. And he's like that thing, it's not in me. That sort of you could have bitched, you could have given up. And he's like, no, that's not in me. And sad as it is, there's a lot of guys that is in them. And we've seen it. And we saw it a lot in the last 2 years in particular, right? Anthony Jennings ain't that guy. And he ain't playing like he did before, in terms of his snaps. And he was out there all the time in the last couple of years. But he's making his snaps count. So a lot of credit to him for being a true professional.
This sounds sarcastic, but that was a beautiful love letter, a beautiful football love letter, and it's completely well-deserved. 2 pressures, had the sack, got banged up, came back. I think leaning into what he does have, which is his power. That is what gives him the edge-setting strength against the run. Use that as a pass rusher. You need a change-up. You need some other moves. He's just not going to have that based on his body type, but what he does have is working well enough. Hat tip to him. Couple more hat tips, and then we'll go back to the offense and then move on. Again, Craig Woodson had the pick. Just really good game start to finish for him, moving around. And that included blitzing, it included being in the box, included being single high, and they were, changing stuff against certain motions, which all worked. Christian Gonzalez, I didn't love this game from him, but that forced fumble was a type of physicality and ferocity that, frankly, you haven't seen from him all the time. And then the reaction piece was as big as I've ever seen him and as demonstrative as I've ever seen Christian Gonzalez. So he gives up 4 catches. You're like, 4 catches? Oh, yeah, 4 catches. Almost doesn't matter in the shadow of that fumble. And then the last one Tonga, we always give the Tonga shout out. But just the fact that they were resetting the line of scrimmage to have a stuff rate of 36%. Yeah. Anytime you wanted to run the ball 1 out of every 3 times, just spike it instead if you're Houston it's just unbelievable butt whooping. That's just what it is. It's very basic football. We're here to kick your ass, and they did. So
yeah, you said the offensive tape was boring. The defensive tape was so not boring. And one of the things that I just love about it, and this was funny because I was watching Houston last week and in preparation for this game and marveling at how many times 5, 6, 7 guys are around the football, even on plays on the perimeter. You're like, God, they're just they're everywhere. The Patriots were that last night, whether it was on the perimeter, but particularly obviously with the inside stuff with Marks forcing him to cut back. There was a lot of penetration early on where he couldn't even go to where he wanted to go, had to cut back, and then guys were filling in. It was very much the wall that Mike Vrabel talked about, the wall that we praised for 8-9 weeks when they weren't giving opposing running backs, more than 50 yards in a game. this was that's that team again right there. So, and it will be important, obviously, going on the road, because we know with Jared Stidham at quarterback, they're going to want to do a little bit of that.
Yeah, they did back off. They didn't blitz as much in the second half. Part of that was playing with the lead, but you saw some more cover two, even a snap of 2-man, which I could not tell you or remember another snap of them playing 2-man this entire season. But just really well coached, connected is probably the best way to put it, especially in the back end. And with the timing of some of their pressure stuff, which again, they got beat. The one touchdown they gave up was a man blitz, but Christian Kirk, as I said last week, is 6'2". Marcus Jones is 5'8". Why wouldn't Houston go at that matchup in the slot? And they did, and they scored, but that was it. So really, really well done. Only played man about a third of the time, mostly in nickel, a little bit of base, some dime, and then a tiny bit of goal line, but that was it. We did not do our offensive notes. I kind of want to breeze through these two because we have studs and duds in Denver and some stuff to get to. Are you down with that?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right, you lead off.
I thought Morgan Moses actually played a pretty good game.
Yeah.
All things considered, right? I mean, there was the one he was responsible for was that the first turnover, first fumble? Not the turnover, but first fumble.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought he played a pretty good game. Now, obviously, they had a lot of problems, and we'll get to that on the opposite side at tackle. But I thought Morgan Moses, although there was one play, and I think it was on another fumble, maybe. Did you see when he got hit in the back? He stayed down for a second, but like, that's a dude that doesn't show pain. And he got hit. It was kind of friendly fire, but then it was a defender came into his back. It wasn't even I thought it was his legs initially, and he got hit in the back, and he like right away went to the back, and he stayed down for a second. So I'll be curious to see, he was happy in the post game, and he obviously finished the game, but I'll be curious to see if his 34, 35-year-old back, how that feels on Wednesday when they have to get back out to practice.
I do remember him being down because he missed a couple of snaps. Yeah. I didn't rewatch it for today, just knowing what the end result of that play was, and it was also just a strip sack that you're just going, okay, there's not a lot of analysis that's needed here for me to fill in. I will say though, to that point, there were two big battlegrounds going into this on this side of the ball that we're going to decide basically the entire, I don't know, outcome, but like if the Patriots are going to win, they would need one of these two battlegrounds. One of those was handling Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter on the edges. Didn't happen. Like all those strip sacks, even if the pressure rate was 24%, the damage they did was as maximum damage every time they hit. And we saw that with the 5 sacks, the strip sacks, etc. The other battleground, though, the Patriots won decisively. And this was their wide receivers against Houston's man coverage. And someone, I don't remember who, was talking about a guy who had not played a lot in 2 months and really was good against man, but they needed to use him and probably should play. And then Demario Douglas, who was that guy, scores a touchdown on the second drive. And that was illustrative of two things. Number one, an offense that we have hailed a lot this season about using different pieces at different times to beat different opponents. Okay, there's enough talent here. It's not overwhelming, but like the menu is big enough that you can kind of cook up a lot of different things. And Maye was 7 of 10 for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns versus man coverage. If you told me that before the game, that they were going to win this particular battleground with Booty and Diggs and Pop Douglas, who all had catches versus man, I would have told you they win by 20. That's how shocking this was to me for an offense that had 1 catch versus man-to-man against the Chargers, and they don't play a ton of it. Okay, it's not a volume thing. Even by percentage, I think Maye was 1 of 6. Okay, and he also had 3 sacks, don't get me wrong, against Houston when facing man-to-man. But the fact that you could draw maybe the best defense in football, pull them to a draw, is a win for your offense. And that's why this happened. All 3 touchdowns were against man-to-man. And that was an area they had to win and did.
Well, this would be the one instance, you were talking about McDaniels, who wasn't in his bag. And I agree. I thought it was a fairly standard game plan, if you will. That's right. I don't mean to insult him, but that's, just like we've seen him cook up some different stuff, and there wasn't a lot of that exotics in this game. But on the two of the touchdowns, you got a wide receiver, in that case, the little fella in Pop Douglas on a safety, 1-on-1. And the safety wasn't Jalen Petrie, who is basically their nickel corner, but he plays some safety for them as well. This was Kalen Bullock. It's a bigger, longer, and he's a very good coverage guy. He's one of the guys that I was talking about last week of I think they had 3 of the top 6 guys in quarterback rating against, which again, whatever. It's just a number and a metric to sort of give you a sense. And I'm sure it can, whatever. You know what it is. But that's a matchup that I like. And granted, it was a close matchup, as we talked about. He got his hand on the football. But like, that's a matchup like when you're Drake Maye, and he actually had Stephon Diggs on the left side open in the flat for what would have been an much easier throw, pitch and catch, first down, move the chains. He took this play because he looked at it and goes, I got pop on a safety. I'm going to take that. And then on the touchdown to Diggs, where they run Diggs across the formation. They realize they've got man, but they've got Jalen Reed, a safety, on Stephon Diggs. Now, Stephon Diggs isn't A.J. Brown in his prime, or he's in Steph Diggs in his prime, but he's still pretty damn good. And so you're going to put a safety on that guy? I'm going to go there. And those were 2 instances where you got a matchup you wanted and you took advantage of it and scored touchdowns.
It was a matchup they picked on not as often as I thought they would, but I know there's a lot to consider here when you're dealing with, again, the best pass rush you've seen in a pass rush that's, stressing the weak points that you have at left tackle and left guard, though I thought Jared Wilson actually played pretty well. Mm-hmm. Because McDaniel's first answer, just to kind of merge the notes with the game plan piece of this, was to run about 75% of the time on first down. This was a physically, we're going to lean on you, we're going to try to wear on you, paired with a 30% play action rate. So you've got the physical piece, you've got the play design to kind of neutralize them. And to some degree that it worked. But when you do those things, it eliminates the targets that you could otherwise spend or invest or use on Demario Douglas and Stephon Diggs against safeties who are coming down in the scheme to cover the slot. They did it maybe a little bit more, but then again, you run the risk of all the strip sacks, which at the end, I even tweeted, hey, McDaniels is kind of turtling here as a play caller in the third, fourth quarter when they're backed up. I don't care. Run, screen is what I want when you watch Drake Maye get strip sacked as often as he did. And I think they might even had a lead then. So there was stuff here that I don't think they got to as often as they wanted to based on the game flow. One thing they did get to that just didn't work, which was picking on Kamari Lassiter as a downfield target. Gave up one catch. It was the booty slam, went for 25. And, good for him. But he was all over those go balls to Kyle Williams and Booty until Derek Stingley gave up the go ball to Booty. So, like, all of that comes together with a fairly straightforward game plan, not a ton of motion, very basic pass concepts. And they wanted to play them straight up, and it didn't go particularly well, mostly for Will Campbell. Is this something that worries you, or is this just like, man, Will Anderson's not a 1 of 1, but he's like a 1 of 5, and this is the game that shows you why?
The Denver pass rush, Nick Bonito in particular. Nick Bonito has he has been consistently one of the guys that gets off the line of scrimmage as quick as anyone in the league. Like it's top 3, top 5, something like that. Double-digit sack guy. Their whole defensive line is really good. But when it comes to Will, it's been a tough 2 weeks. Played better talent, played guys that have taken advantage of the length a little bit. The speed has obviously been a problem for him as well. And look, he came back from the MCL, which was a serious injury that normally takes 6 weeks. He was back in 5. He's not 100%. That's no excuse. You're out there, right? We can't just, he's got you don't say to Will Anderson, hey, our guy's got an MCL. Can you just, hey, he's at about 80%. Can you go 80% too to make it a fair fight? That's not the way it's going to work. It's certainly not going to work that way in Denver. If I'm Vance Joseph, their defensive coordinator, I'm putting Nick Bonito across from him as much as I possibly can. And I'm going to try to just wear him out. And the last 2 weeks, he's been worn out pretty good.
Yeah. I have a couple more notes, and then we're going to move on to Studs and Duds, Dad Pod, Let Me Have It, and those Broncos. But first, I got to tell you, I made PrizePicks picks last week for this game. I said, take the freebie at CJ Stroud, more than half a passing yard. That's it. That's as easy as it possibly could be. That is the freebie. You just need to pick one more player and one more stat. You go more than less than. For people who don't know, PrizePicks is America's #1 sports pick app. You want to win money while you watch sports, you got to go to PrizePicks. My other player here was Pop Douglas, who, again, I bet on the podcast. I bet on with a column, not figuratively, not literally. Just saying, like, look, I know he hasn't played a whole lot. You got to do this. That's pressure when you give out that kind of stuff, Mike, to say he's going to have more than 18.5 receiving yards when he just hasn't done that really the last 2 months. It's even more pressure when your dad's like, oh, I think I'll fire up PrizePicks. Why don't I try? And you know what he did was download the PrizePicks app. He used code CLNS to get $50 in lineup. After he played his first $5 lineup, he used code CLNS. That was $50 in lineups for him. After he played his first $5 lineup, locked in CJ Stroud, locked in Pop Douglas. And so I'm watching this game being like, oh my God, I've not watched or rooted for the Patriots in like God knows how many years now since I was a kid. This is a lot of pressure to deliver for like a financial impact on my family. Good news was I had done my homework, and there goes Pop Douglas for more than 18.5 yards on that touchdown in the first quarter. Boom, boom, boom. And let's just say you're a little bit worried that, you don't want to do 2 picks. You want to do up to 6, which you can do at PrizePicks. If your first 2 hit and you don't want to wait this weekend for football or basketball, the Celtics are playing, you want to pick a Celtics game, whatever, you can use early payouts because this is a new feature at PrizePicks. It's my favorite. You get 2 out of your 6, first 3 hit, whatever. You get in, you get out. Your hot start means cash in your pocket. But get in only if you download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And let me tell you, it is good to be right on PrizePicks. One more, since we're talking about family. And because we do a segment about this every single week, that having a daughter has like really changed how much I think about work and football, which isn't to say not a whole lot. But look, you gotta think about serious things. And among those is like planning and moving, and we're house hunting. Life insurance is a biggie. And this new sponsor has come in at a big time, Ethos, to tell you that making life insurance and the process and the policy and the whole everything with it is actually fast and easy, because Ethos is 100% online. At Ethos, you get a quote in seconds, you apply in minutes, you get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just have to answer a few simple health questions, and you can get up to $3 million in coverage for life insurance. Some policies are even as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, I keep giving this stat because, frankly, this is the biggest thing I'm going to say about this, in my opinion. Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider anywhere. #1, literally cannot be beat. So protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now. Go check it out at ethos.com/all32. Where's that from? ALL32. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/all32. That is ethos.com/all32. Ethos.com/all32. Application times and rates may vary. Where is that from, Mike Giardi? All32.
That's a great podcast hosted by yours truly. In fact, as we are doing this Monday, January 19th, 8:42 in the evening, I will be recording my podcast tomorrow at noon, Tuesday.
Is this the solo Tuesdays?
This is the solo Tuesday, and then we will bring you a fine guest at the end of the week. We had Jason McCourty, who was on the call for Westwood One this past week to preview the Texans game. Also, one of those guys who said, like, you can get him over the top, Mike. Patriots can get him over the top, and they got him over the top.
He's so good. Better than Devin, some would say, who
I would say that.
Might be on this show on Friday. So stay tuned.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, did I jump you?
No. I don't have to send him a text.
Oh no.
Plant some seeds.
Oh, okay. We'll also see him at the Super Bowl, so we can just bug him every day at Radio Row, I think.
That's a fair point.
All right, here are my leftover notes for offense, and we'll move on. Ramondre Stevenson broke 6 tackles. I mean, the dude is just power. He's patience, vision, all the stuff that you want. Trevion Henderson not playing with the same patient vision happens. He's a rookie, whatever. Quiet receiving day for Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. The run blocking, though, I liked. And Hooper, especially in that first 20-yard run, held the edge, let Stevenson get outside, and that was big. There's smaller offensive line stuff that we can get into. I don't particularly care to. The last thing is this, again, McDaniels kept a very basic game plan. I would have liked to see a few more max protect shots if they were going to take shots, and maybe some more trickery in motion. But I do wonder just how much the initial game flow and that instant strip sack just makes you go, we really got to kind of rein it in and keep it simple. So that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think the thing that they feared, right, happened, and it happened early, and it was like, okay, look, we're better than this team. We believe we're better than this team. We've got to minimize that part of it as much as we can, and knowing that we're going to have problems on the edges all day.
Yeah. All right, studs and duds. I will lead off. Studs, Carlton Davis, #1 with a bullet. I think Marcus Jones is up there. Actually, you know what? Take Marcus Jones off because we got a lot of studs. Craig Woodson is up there.
Yes.
Pick, recovers the fumble, everything that's in there. Kayvon Chason, who we did not mention, sack, 2 QB hits, a hurry. Kyrus Tonga, close to our hearts, no matter where you are. Tripled his career sack total. Started with a half sack after 3-4 years in the league. Now has 1.5. And offensively, I mean, I think I'm just going to give it to all the receivers, even though they only had 4 catches versus man coverage. But just given how impactful they were in high leverage spots, that's a big win for me, you know. And since they didn't have turnovers like the guy throwing those high leverage passes did, they get a spot in the studs category.
Yeah, I went Booty, obviously, and I thought running better. Like, look, you look at the results. You see what I just thought he was moving better in this game, and he's been coming back from the hamstring injury, and that was a concern. And it kind of flared up a couple weeks ago, right? He was on the injury report again. I thought he ran well. Chase on clearly. Had 3 safe secondary guys: Gonzalez, Davis, Woodson. We talked about Christian Ellis. And I do want to give a shout out. I don't know that it's deserving of being on the studs of the overall game performance, but the way the right side blocked in that clock killing drive, they went to the right side over and over and over again. It was Moses. It was Mike Nwenu. It was Thayer Mumford, although there was a couple blocks in there weren't great, but a couple good ones. Jack Westover had a couple killer blocks on that drive. So that series was you were talking about beauty. I could write a love letter to that series. I enjoyed that series quite a bit. Hold the ball for more than 6 minutes, get it out from under the shadow of your own goalpost while the game's still in doubt. Vrabel called it classy. I don't think that's the word I would use. I would just call it physically overpowering and soul crushing is what I thought it was.
That's where his old defensive player was showing. That's what he sees as like a high end.
Yeah, he didn't want to. Yeah, my God, that's fair.
Yeah. Will Campbell is a dud. I think ball security generally. I mean, I'm reluctant to put May in there. I don't think he warrants that entirely. Can we put D'Amico Ryans in here? Like, this is also something I highlighted is kind of like the contrast in game management. Him is one of the more conservative coaches in the entire freaking league, especially on 4th down. And as it pertains to kind of going for it sometimes in the red zone, came up in this game when I just think, man, we have to be smarter than this. And Vrabel certainly is, because that 4th and 1 led to a touchdown, as it has before during the regular season. So there you go, D'Amico, a little parting gift.
I mean, how curious was the decision with under 5 to play to punt the ball? Yeah, I think
Vrabel even mentioned it today as one of those kind of like side, not like salty comments, but just like, thank you. Oh, yeah. Wow. Way to go, pal.
I think they only had 1 timeout left. Like, you think you're going to get the ball back twice and score a touchdown? Like, you got to go for it there. Like, to me, that almost reeked of, we'll take the 12-point loss. We don't want it to be 19. 19 looks different at the end of the game than 12.
Though, we were joking probably on Twitter at the time, like the Texans are more likely to score with their defense and their offense. Do you think that thought like seriously crossed his mind?
I mean, I'm sure for 3 quarters he thought that, because it came damn close to it, right? I mean, Hunter on the strip sack, the first one, had the ball at the 5-yard line. Like, he lost the ball. And again, like the game that we play, the butterfly effect there, but like, they had just taken the ball and shoved it down your throat for over 6 minutes. Your defense was done. It was like, maybe you could have, had you scored a touchdown there, gotten some energy and said, guys, one more stop. You can, with 3 plays, let's do this. Maybe you'd be able to get them inspired. But in that moment, you're like, wait, we're down 12. Our quarterback's playing like ass, and you're going to punt. And we were just on the field for over 6 minutes. No, that was the white flag of surrender.
So the Patriots are going to Denver. They are 3.5-point favorites. Yep. I will have a full-on preview episode later this week. It's going to be 2-parter. We might do 2 smaller ones. It might be 1 giant episode. I already teased you. Devin McCourty's going to be on. I'm gonna withhold the identity of the other guest. A little surprise, but we're up in our game here this week on the pod. Denver's 14-3, which we know because the Patriots are 14-3, and they were not the number 1 seed because Denver had a better in-conference record. Denver, as of late, is not as good as the Patriots are by DVOA, but on the season, they are 15th in offense, 5th on defense, and then 16th on special teams. So like the Texans, this is a team that plants its flag on defense. Like the Texans, this is a team that plants its flag with its pass rush. Now, lately, this defense has been stinky. Like,
Yep.
not like, oh, we gave up 30 points to Josh Allen and, won it overtime. But, like, you look at their last 4, 5, 6 games, not great. And the way they generate pass rush, yes, is like Nick Benito and Zach Gallen, like, go after the quarterback and go nuts. Vance Josephs plays their defensive coordinator, a high variance, a lot of blitz packages and pressures and all these different things in a way that is going to pose problems for the Patriots that, like, they're not just going to line up and tell you what they're in, but there are enough leaks that spring from the back seven that I think they'll be able to take advantage. The Jarrett Stidham stuff obviously is a huge question. The one part on the flip side that I'll mention is this will be the best offensive line the Patriots have faced maybe all season, and definitely far and away, like a double-A jump in baseball to the majors, the best they've seen in the playoffs. So that to me is a battleground where it's like, how do the Patriots get around it? We know they've been blitzing a whole lot. If those get blocked up, your pass rush might be out of luck and Jarrett Stidham has time. I don't know. We're getting ahead there. But aside from a good defense, it's a pressure defense. Their offensive line is an area that I think for now we're going to underestimate a little bit about how much of an impact it might have on the game.
Yeah, it's a terrific group. And they played at a high level now for multiple years. This is in many ways, it's sort of like what the Bills have put together in Buffalo with their offensive line. It's the bedrock of who they are. What's interesting about this, though, is they haven't been an awesome running football team. J.K. Dobbins went down with the injury, lost for the year. R.J. Harvey's their young rookie, who I like a lot. I think he's a nice player. I like him coming out. But, as we've seen with Trevion Henderson, it's just the consistency of it is not there on a regular basis. McLaughlin's another one of the guys they have. He's more of a change of pace guy. The one thing that I like the way you phrased it about Vance Joseph. My view of Vance Joseph has been for a long time, he blitzes too much because you got dogs. And I think sometimes he puts them in unfavorable situations. I think they weren't the better team against the Buffalo Bills, and there was a lot that went into that. And part of it was Josh had a couple of just back-breaking turnovers. We know about some of the officiating stuff, but I thought they got handled pretty good in that game. So I'm curious if Vance Joseph, who hasn't really backed off the blitzing all that much, if he looks at Drake Maye, the success that Drake's had against the blitz, and says, you know what? I just watched Houston with 4 pass rushers cause all kinds of problems for that football team. Like, maybe I should just let my guys play. Zach Allen's awesome in the interior, one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. Cooper.
Did I ever tell you I covered a high school game of his?
No.
So this is my first job. This was October 2014. I was the sports editor, October 2014, at the Darien News and New Canaan News. I don't know if they exist anymore, but it's like Fairfield County, the super ritzy, rich part of Connecticut. Nothing like where I grew up. But I'm working down there covering those 2 high schools in Darien and New Canaan. He's a New Canaan native, and they're about to play some high school. They're going to beat the brakes off of whatever. I noticed on the sideline, Steve Adazio, who was then the head coach at BC. So I'm like, fresh out of college, let me go talk to Steve Adazio. I lied to him saying I'm from BC just so I could talk to him for like 2 extra minutes. Not worth it. But I was curious, like, what he was doing there, because Zach Allen at the time was committed to Northwestern, and they had another kid who I think was going to Harvard from New Canaan or something. Who you were recruiting? Naturally, he's not going to tell the reporter, even though he went to BC. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, flips him to BC. Fast forward, he's not just like good at Boston College. He's a second freaking round pick and has now signed this giant contract. Zach was very nice, but even at that age was like NFL player polished with the media, because I'm sure we talked about like the 5 sacks he had after the game or whatever.
Yeah.
And was, of course, the biggest towering dude on the field because it's Connecticut high school football. But anyway, it was just like, I wonder if he'll make it. And you're right. He's like probably, I don't know how long the list would have to be. 10, 15, 20, 25 players, like on the best players you don't know how good they are or most underrated. Like he's on that list.
Yeah, terrific. At times can be unblockable. It's Chris Jones. We saw what Chris Jones did in that run. Like, he's got that sort of influence on a football game. Not quite the level of Chris Jones, but pretty freaking good.
Yeah. The Stidham piece, I don't think anyone can do any analysis here on him because you just haven't seen it. Like people can bet on the traits and he's a little bit more mobile, and like Sean Payton is going to talk him up because they really liked him. And it's cool the Patriots had interest in a reunion. And I'm sure Josh McDaniels endorsed that, as Mike Vrabel shared today. They had talks in free agency. With his agent apparently going, hey, if your backup quarterback's ever hurt, you really want to have Jarrett. Interesting. Because here we are. But aside from that, like this is going to be a big coaching game. Kind of like to me, going into the Houston game, I was like, they need Josh McDaniels best. And I don't think they got it from Josh, but it was at least like a B game from him. And that was good enough against the Texans because their defense played like an A+. The Broncos need an A game from Sean Payton because the way this Patriots defense is playing has been awesome. And Jarrett Stidham needs to have some answers to a lot of different stuff he's going to see. But beyond that, like, what can you say?
Yeah, it's there's such limited tape on him. Oh, great. He looked great in the preseason. Like, I mean, we've seen a million guys look great in the preseason. We watched him in the preseason. You know, we watched him in training camp. And I remember there was a stretch there. I think it was the year that he, Cam, and Mac were all together, right? Was that the COVID year? That was the COVID year.
2021?
Yeah. Where it was like, oh, no, it must have been the year before.
When him and Cam were battling.
Whatever. I just remember there was a stretch of like 2 weeks where I kept going back being like, you know what threw the best ball today? Stidham. Like, not consistently, but like that one throw every day, you're like, oh, crap, that was a great throw. Oh, Stidham. It was Stidham. Like, he's got the ability. It just, he's never had the full-time opportunity. And this is obviously a huge moment from Nick Foles chiming in, by the way, with one of the great tweets. People in Denver are going through it, he said. I'm paraphrasing. But I hear the Patriots have a hard time with backup quarterbacks in big games.
No one listening liked that you said that, but I respect it.
It was pretty funny.
It was a good tweet.
Yeah.
Two more small things on this. Number one is Carlton Davis left with a head injury on Sunday. Don't know what his status is. If that's a concussion, and I'm Sean Payton, we now have an avenue to give Jarrett Stidham some easy throws, whether that's at Alex Austin or Charles Woods on the outside. No disrespect to those guys, but like you saw what Denver did the second Dane Jackson came into that game at the end of the half, at the end of regulation, and threw a touchdown over his head, and they tied the Bills, go to overtime, and then win.
And they got the backup safety in that game too. The backup safety came in and bam, right over the top.
So it's not a reason to be fearful, but like if you want to open some more paths for the Broncos to go win, Carlton Davis coming off the best game of his season and probably in a few years, not being available to play. Who knows? We'll find out Wednesday when Mike Vrabel tells us what his availability is for practice. Just something to keep in mind. The second thing was just like the altitude piece, which I know everyone's going to bring up and talk about. There's nothing they can do now. I am curious how it affects special teams and if Denver really wants to lean into a field position game. Any Borregales, I think you have to trust at this point. But it's just something that's going to come up in a way that's like, oh, how are you going to breathe on the sideline? I don't know. They'll play football. They've done that for 4 months. But the special teams piece, like that really is going to be affected by, punts, kickoffs, all the returns, field goals. Like that to me is where it shows up and the strategy is a little bit more interesting. So,
yeah, I mean, and to that point, the Bills had 75 offensive plays in that game or something ridiculous. And again, like I said, if you watch the game, they should have won the game. They were the better team. They had to come to altitude. They had to play that game. And they had to do it on one day less rest. They were a Sunday team playing on a Saturday. So they handled it just fine. I mean, it's not easy. I think everybody will tell you that they've lived through it. I mean, Dopey Me was out there working out in Colorado Springs when the Patriots were out there getting ready for their game in Mexico City a few years ago. And back then I'm running like 6, 7, 8 miles. Like, no problem. I went out there, I ran like 3 miles, thought I was going to die. Like, just, you feel it. You definitely feel it.
Yeah. All right, Dad Pod, let me have it, and let's get out of here. So tonight I am not going to read lyrics from a song that sucks that my daughter loves because it makes her fall asleep, and no other song makes her fall asleep except for this song that sucks. I'm going to tell you what I was watching the Niners-Seahawks game, because we're still staying with my in-laws, more space, more time, more help with the baby as I commute to and from Boston, just because it's playoffs. I have my daughter in my lap. It's just me and him in a dark room watching, me and my father-in-law. And all of a sudden, this sound like just pops and just cracks the silence. It is my daughter farting for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, almost 5 Mississippi. She just turned 10 weeks, okay? This is like adult gas coming out of her. And I think I need to change a diaper. So I'm like, oh, we'll go. All right, here we go. Time to go change you. So I get up, hold her. And my father-in-law looks at me like, are you seriously blaming that fart on your daughter? Like I had treated her like the dog did it. It's in the corner. I go, no, honest to God, that was her. And lo and behold, get to change the diaper. There's nothing there. It was all air. And so I got to live with like momentary doubt of, are you this much of a lowlife to blame this on a sleeping 10-week-old? It really happened, I swear. But this was, I say, like cracked the silence in the air. This is not, I don't know, maybe overwriting, overspeaking, whatever. But it was jarring out of this little adorable baby of mine. So that's my only dad part.
As a man, we tend to find gas farts funny, and when my kids would have gas, and when they were a little older, 2, 3, whatever, I would always say good one. So that became the running thing for like 10 years. Because of course, probably still to this day, because my son still enjoys walking by you and farting because it's funny. But yeah, for the longest time, it was like, oh, that was a good one. Yeah, good one. Like just kids would look at you like, good one, Dad. You're like, yeah, thanks. The old man still got it. He's got plenty of gas.
Still got it. He will be in a wheelchair years from now, but as long as Dad can pass gas, he's still, quote, got it, end quote.
Yep.
Giardi household. Is that your dad pod?
Yeah, I was going to say we did do, we got to do quick, we're looking for a couch, right? Need a couch, new couch. Daughter and I want lazy boys. Being overruled, but we want lazy boys. So when we're looking for couches, we disappear. We find the room that's got all the, like we're trying them all out. Like, oh, this one has back massage. It's got heat. You can plug your phone in. It's got a drink holder. It's not going to happen. But like we literally tried 50 different chairs. Oh, Dad, this one's better. You got to come over here. You got to try this one. I don't like the way this one it pushes my head. No, this one. Oh, look at that. What that does for the lower back support. Fantastic.
I like that. I think I'm going to win on the sectional whenever we do get this house and finally move into our own space and I'm not commuting. Well, I will be commuting probably far then. But anyway, so that's your wife then overruling the two of you.
Yes.
Man, that's tough. Would 3-1 do it if your son joined in?
No.
Oh, that sucks. That's tough.
You pick your battles.
Yeah. Speaking of picking my battles, we have Okay, Let Me Have It. This is where you and I have to lay down arms and the other one gets to go on a verbal assault for something that the other guy said and you didn't particularly like. So we let you have it. We get out of our cycle, our systems, and then we move on and go about our nights. I had a listener submission for this, for you.
Wow.
Said, can you do this for Okay, Let Me Have It? And it is a picture, not from this past game, not from this past month, not even from the season. This is from the summertime that our pal, Mike Reese, tweeted out of Will Campbell during a scrum in training camp. And I don't know if we have it for the YouTube audience, so I'm just going to start describing it anyway. Will is standing in front of this backdrop that they wheel around. And it's just got like the Patriots and then some logos and some sponsors and whatever. You can see a small semicircle around him. And Mike Reese, who took the photo and tweeted it, is sitting down straight ahead of him. You, on the other hand, are next to Will, just a step behind him, around this backdrop, curled around it like a gargoyle might be on the front of a castle with like your leg up and an arm holding out a phone, trying to get a listen to what he's saying, instead of just standing straight up next to the backdrop or further up with the rest of us. You are curled around hiding like you're trying not to be spotted, but still need your interview and holding the phone out. I can tweet the photo after this because it doesn't look like we have it for the YouTube audience. But someone wanted to know why you were doing it and wanted it for this segment. And I don't have the handle. I put it and must have deleted it in my notes. But here it is. So I've let you have it. Now I've asked the question. What was going on there?
I actually told Doug Kyde this because, of course, Mark Daniels, Doug Kyde, several people on the beat jumped in on this. And then there were a few people, a couple with crass comments on social media. I know that would shock you. I told Doug I remember exactly what was going on that day. I was in pain that day.
Oh.
It's a true story. I was like literally
jerks now. Come on.
No. It's not because I'm like, by whatever, just because I'm old. And so you sit on the like we're on the hill, so you're at kind of an angle, and you're sitting there. And I don't know what day that was, but it felt like it was multiple days in. But I remember in particular, like I think all my leg muscles were like in knots. And so if you look at that picture, I am like stretching the calf, I'm stretching an ankle, I'm stretching a quad. Like, and actually, if they ever videoed these things, like if they ever video Vrabel when he's talking and they had the side shot, I'm in this little door always, and invariably I'm stretching in the doorway, like because I'm a tight, muscular human being. I'm not muscular. My muscles are tight, is what I'm trying to tell you, and I'm constantly sore. So,
do you not have time to stretch like any other time of the day?
You stretch all the time. It just like I'll be sitting there and be like, "Ow, it hurt," and that was one of those moments. I will tell you, 100%, I was in pain that day.
I'm sorry you were in pain.
Just
next time, stand out of the shot. How about that?
That's my spot. I'm always in that little corner spot. Always. The only thing I was going to say about your program today was how you started off at the beginning talking about Quakers, and you just like we were talking about Quakers to begin the show, as we were talking about who would be just because you did your thing with the CLNS, the Qs this time, and we were Quakers, and I was like, we don't have anywhere to go from there, so just get to football for crying out loud.
Fair. Sometimes I like those oddball swings, but you were right in that this one in particular was just Q words were today's description of the CLNS Media Network, which I have to mention every time. I don't like to mention every time. It's nothing against the CLNS Media Network. I just am going to have my fun with it instead. I think we landed on the right answer, though. If anyone came from a Quaker family, I think it'd be Alex Barth. He's very nice.
Yeah, I know. It's true. I think we got it right. It took us a little while to get there.
I don't know if it was that long. We'll rewind the tape. All right, it's time to go. Patriots are back in the AFC Championship game. I'm glad you chose that, by the way, instead of my syrupy, sappy comparisons to the early Dynasty days with an early Dynasty player.
I told you I didn't hate it.
I know, but didn't hate it is like,
no, but
what do you think of the new girlfriend I brought home? Oh, I didn't hate her. Okay. Like, what?
I think I said that about my son's first. No, it was his second girlfriend. I didn't hate her. She was all right. It was all right. I know where you're coming from. You're getting older. Now you got a kid. You're like, you got all these emotions. You got all these dad emotions that are happening now. I told you I was starting to write about snow globes. And then I was like, I can't write about snow globes.
I'm starting to do the thing that every person does when they get older. And you look back with rose-colored glasses about when you were growing up or this happened. And you're like, oh, back in my day, this was better. And everyone who said this before my generation was wrong. Technology was better. People were living longer. Things are nicer. I'm right. I'm the first person in history to look back and say, back in my day, things were better, and I am absolutely correct. Not very happy with the state of the world generally, and I think that's totally fair, regardless of how you're living or what your beliefs are. But it's not great right now. So anyway, it's nice to be right. It's nice to be right at PrizePicks, where we're gonna have some more picks at the end of the week, and that pressure is gonna be on, man. It's my dad's money that I'm steering. I don't know how people do this for a living as like official financial advisors and money managers and what do they call it? Wealth management?
Yes. Wealth advisors.
Man. Yeah.
I have no wealth, so I have no advisors.
It's just the pilot fish of the finance world. Let me swim close to the sharks and then just get like the little tidbits and just that's my job. That's what I do. Anyway. All right. I'm getting mean and old and cranky. We will be back, I think, next Monday. We might have a programming change pending if the Patriots win in Denver. If they don't, if they do not, we will delay this because you and I will have to do locker room clean out and some exit interview stuff and be back from Denver to do all that in Foxborough, which means less time to break down the film. If they do win, I think we'll do it on a Monday so we can kind of wash our hands of the AFC Championship game and then go on to the Super Bowl because that's all anyone's going to want to talk about. But we deserve to do this film. So anyway, tune in next week on Monday probably, and if not Tuesday, probably. And if not Tuesday, definitely Wednesday. How about that?
I think that's fair. I think we've got all our grounds covered there.
Cool. All right. Thank you as always, my friend.
All right, brother.